Miss you, miss you, miss you. Since you went away, I've been doing nothing but thinking, babe, with my heart in my hand. And I just don't think I can carry on. So I start loneliness away, and I don't forget the day I fall down on my knees, wishing for you return.
Hello and welcome to this final Tuesday News Day, the 4th of June. I hope you enjoyed the look back at all of the articles that we've done for Tuesday News Day so far this year. But we have one left, and our learning goal for that is to determine two or more central ideas of a text and analyze the development over the course of that text, including how they interact and build on one another. A 4 means that you can identify the central idea or ideas, the evidence that the author uses to prove his or her point, and how the ideas build on one another. A 3 means that you can identify the central ideas and the evidence that the author uses to prove his or her point. A 2 means you can identify the central ideas, but you can't really show me the evidence. And a 1 means that you are unsure of how to find the central idea. To receive 1.5 units for today's class, you must highlight or underline the main idea, circle the evidence that the author uses to prove his or her point, and put a box around any other central ideas in the text. The 4 skills should look very familiar at this point. The first is to identify the topic. Remember that the topic is not the main idea. Typically, the topic shows up in the title, but there's a lot more to it, and the main idea goes much deeper, and that holds true for our article today. You want to be able to summarize the story in 10 to 12 words. Find the first and last sentence, because typically the author will introduce the main idea with the first sentence and recap the main idea with the last sentence. Repetition is important because if there's repeated ideas, we know that the author probably finds those ideas important and leads you to the main idea. Today's article is titled Scrolling Instagram Feeds, Young People Feel Pressure to Overspend. I think that gives us a good idea into the topic. But I also want you to look at, as we look more at main idea, how the author incorporates retirement savings and what happens when we overspend when we're young, and how, our golden years are so far away. They seem so far away when we're, 18, 19, 20, up to about 30, that we just want to spend and go on those trips now. But the question is, what's going to happen when you do want to retire at 65? So that's kind of where the author takes the article. It was written on the 29th for the USA Today. It begins this way. There are many reasons millennials and Gen Zers aren't saving for retirement in large numbers. They want to enjoy life while they're young. They view their golden years as unimaginably far away, and they're burdened by student debt. Here's another. They see social media posts of their friends enjoying extravagant cars, dinners, and vacations, and they want in on it. Call it keeping up with Instagram. 35% of Americans admit they feel pressured to spend more than they can afford after seeing images of their friends' lives on sites like social media or like Facebook and Instagram, according to Schwab's 2019 Modern Wealth Study. The FOMO effect is most dramatic for young adults. FOMO, of course, is the fear of missing out. About half of millennials and 45% of Generation Z, those born approximately between 1995 and 2005, that's most of you, high school students, acknowledge their spending habits are at least partly shaped by social media. That's clearly having an influence on one of the most important issues, which is balancing between spending today and accumulating wealth for later, said Rob Williams, Vice President of Financial Planning for the Schwab Center for Financial Research. The urge to keep up with the Joneses is not new, Williams says, and for 35% of Americans, they also concede to spending too much, not out of envy, but to take part in experiences with friends, the survey shows. But social media and the fear of missing out have ratcheted up the pressure to splurge, says Terry Carlson, Executive Vice President of Schwab Investor Services. Yet the images, videos, and descriptions posted on social media sites don't necessarily reflect reality. We see the public face of our friends, Williams says. We don't have a full picture of their financial life. 60% of those surveyed, including 72% of millennials and 74% of Gen Zers, wonder how their friends can afford the expensive escapades they depict online. On average, the Americans polled spent nearly $500 a month on non-essential items. The online survey of 1,000 people aged 21 to 75 was conducted by Logical Research in February. Williams says there's nothing inherently wrong with splurging, whatever the reason, but it should be offset by saving and investing for retirement. Yet 59% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 44% typically carry a credit card, and only 38% have an emergency fund, the survey shows. Navient's survey last year found that 3 in 10 adults aged 22 to 35 have retirement savings. Asked what they would do with a $1 million windfall, 54% of Schwab survey respondents said they would spend it, largely on a house, cars, and to travel. 28% said they would pay down debt, while just 21% said they would save it, and 23% would invest it. At the same time, 59% of Americans consider themselves savers, and 6% say they're willing to sacrifice spending on experiences now to save money for later in life, according to the Schwab survey. There's the aspiration, but when life gets in the way, it gets very difficult, Williams says of the disparity between American self-images and reality. Adults who draw up financial plans are in better shape. Just 28% of Americans have such a written roadmap, but 60% of those who do feel financially stable compared to just a third of those with no plan, the survey shows. Americans on average believe it takes $2.3 million in net worth to be considered wealthy, which is more than 20 times the actual median net worth of U.S. households, according to the survey. So here we are back at the worksheet. We'll kind of go through identifying the topic, summarizing the story, first and last sentences, and repeated ideas. Identifying the topic, we typically get that from the title, and that is social media driving spending habits. I think that was pretty clear, pretty obvious. Summarizing the story, millennials and Gen Zers spending habits are driven by social media, and this makes it hard to save. And I added and this makes it hard to save because the author spent a lot of time talking about what it takes to retire and the perception of what it takes to retire, and along with, how many Americans have a certain number of savings or any savings at all. The first and last sentence, there are plenty of reasons millennials and Gen Zers aren't saving for retirement in large numbers. They want to enjoy life while they're young. And the last, Americans on average believe it takes $2.3 million in net worth to be considered wealthy, which is more than 20 times the actual median net worth of U.S. households, according to the survey. Repeated ideas. Social media's effect on our spending. Younger generations want to spend while young, and the saving habits of Americans, which are not good. And what's left for you here now is to identify the main idea of the article. I hope that you will be able to use these 4 skills to lead you to the main idea of the article. Do not just say that it's Instagram and causing us to overspend, but consider more about the other things that were brought up as well, because that's going to lead you more to the main idea of the article. And with that, we conclude our Tuesday News Days for the year. But fear not, they will return next year. And so for one last time, ciao for now.